The headlights cut through the snow, and I saw him, standing alone, at the side of that road. In the dark. In the cold. A teenage boy. No coat. Just a thin hoodie. Soaked through. Shaking. And my heart broke open. Right there. In that car. At 5 in the morning. I pulled the Buick to the side of the road. Slowly. The tires crunched on the packed snow. I left the headlights on. I wanted him to see me coming. I didn't want to scare him. I stepped out of the car. Cold hit me like a wall. The kind of Vermont cold that steals your breath before you can use it. And I walked toward him. This boy. This stranger. Who called me Grandpa. He was maybe 16. Maybe 17. Tall. Thin. The kind of thin that comes from not eating enough. Dark hair. Wet from the snow. Plastered against his forehead. And his eyes. His eyes stopped me cold. Because they were James's eyes. Exactly. Same shape. Same color. Same quiet pain behind them. Like they had seen too much. Too young. I stopped walking. 3 feet away from him. And I just looked. I had been alone for 6 years. 6 years of silence. 6 years of empty chairs. 6 years of cold coffee and no one to drink it with. And now, standing 3 feet in front of me, was James. Not James. But something of James. The part of him that kept living. After the ravine. After the black ice. After the troopers came to my door. I said the only thing I could say. Cooper? He nodded. Didn't speak. Just nodded. One small movement. Like he was afraid that if he opened his mouth, he would fall apart completely. I understood that feeling. I had lived inside that feeling for 6 years. I took off my coat. The big wool one Carol bought me. 20 years ago. Still the warmest thing I owned. I put it around his shoulders. He flinched. Just slightly. The way an animal flinches. When it's been hurt before. And kindness feels unfamiliar. That broke something loose inside me. I didn't say anything. I just kept the coat on his shoulders. And I said, "Let's get in the car. You can talk when you're warm." He didn't talk for the first 15 minutes. Just sat in the passenger seat. Heat blasting from the vents. Staring at the road ahead. And I drove. And waited. Because some silences need to breathe before they can become words. When he finally spoke. His voice was steady. Steadier than I expected. "You probably think I'm lying," he said. "No," I said. "I don't." He looked at me then. Sideways. Studying my face. "Why not?" I kept my eyes on the road. "Because of the photograph," I said. "The one in his wallet. His mother. Nobody knew that. Nobody." He turned back to the window. "She had a copy of it," he said. "My mom. She kept it in a box under her bed." He paused. "Along with everything else he left her." Everything else he left her. Those words. They landed like stones dropped into still water. Rings spreading outward. Slow. Quiet. Changing the shape of everything. James had a life I never knew about. A woman. A child. A whole separate world. Hidden. Or maybe. Not hidden. Maybe protected. "Tell me about your mother," I said. He was quiet for a moment. "Her name was Diane," he said. "She was from Pennsylvania. She met my dad when she was 23. He was working a job near Pittsburgh." A pause. "They were together for about 2 years. He left before I was born. She said he didn't know she was pregnant. She said she never told him." I gripped the steering wheel. "Why?" I asked. He shrugged. But it wasn't a careless shrug. It was the shrug of someone who had carried a question for years. And still had no good answer. "She said she was scared," he said. "She said things were complicated. She said she loved him. But something wasn't safe. Something wasn't safe. 3 words. And right then, something shifted inside me. The story I had believed for 6 years. Black ice. An accident. A road. A ravine. Started to feel different. After she died, Cooper said, I found the box. Under her bed. Like I said. He reached into the pocket of his hoodie. Pulled something out. Held it carefully. Like it was made of something fragile. He set it on the dashboard between us. An old photograph. Worn at the edges. 2 people. Young. Laughing. Standing in front of a lake. The man had dark hair. A scar above his left eyebrow. My hands went cold. Colder than the Vermont air outside. That's my dad, Cooper said. And my mom. 19 years ago. I stared at that photograph. At my son. Young. Alive. Laughing. The way I hadn't seen him laugh in years. There was something else in that photograph. Something in the background. Behind the 2 young people laughing by the lake. A car. Dark-colored. Parked at the edge of the frame. Someone sitting inside it. Watching them. Cooper didn't mention it. Maybe he hadn't noticed. But I had. And I didn't say a word. What else was in the box? I asked. Carefully. Quietly. Like I was asking about something delicate. Something that might crack if I spoke too loud. He thought for a moment. Letters, he said. But they were never sent. My dad wrote them. To her. After he left. I looked at him. How do you know he wrote them if they were never sent? His handwriting, Cooper said. Mom showed me his handwriting once. From a note he left. The letters matched. He paused. They were dated. Right up until 3 weeks before he died. The car felt smaller suddenly. Like the air was thickening. What did the letters say? I asked. I only read 2 of them, he said quietly. I couldn't read more. Another pause. He said he wanted to come back. He said he was trying to get free of something. He said when he was free, he would come back. For her. And for someone else. He stopped. I think the someone else was me, he whispered, even though he didn't know about me yet. I think he somehow knew. He was trying to get free of something. I drove through the snow, thinking about those words. James, what were you caught in? What had you? What wouldn't let you go? And why? Why didn't you tell me? We were almost home now. The familiar roads of my county. Trees I recognized. Farms I had driven past 1,000 times. But the car felt like a different world now. Cooper shifted in his seat. The men, he said. I need to tell you about the men. I said nothing. Just listened. After my mom died, he said, 2 men came to the house. Said they were from an insurance company. Said there was a policy. Said they needed to collect some items. From her personal belongings. He looked at his hands. I told them I didn't know what they were talking about. They looked at me for a long time. Then they left. A pause. But they came back. 3 more times. Each time asking different questions. About my dad. About documents. About whether she had kept anything. He swallowed hard. The 3rd time. One of them grabbed my arm. In the doorway. And said, it would be better for me. If I didn't remember anything. It would be better for me if I didn't remember anything. I pulled into my driveway. Turned off the engine. Sat in the dark. Snow falling on the windshield. Covering it slowly. Like the world was closing in. These men. Who were they? What were they looking for? And how long? Before they figured out where this boy had gone. I got him inside. Made him sit at the kitchen table. The same table where I had sat alone for 6 years. The same table where James and I had our last Christmas. The same table where the coffee always went cold. I made soup. The canned kind. Simple. Warm. I put it in front of him. He ate like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Which I suspected was true. I sat across from him. And I looked at my son's eyes. Looking back at me. From a face I had never seen before. He ate. And I watched him. And somewhere underneath the wonder of this moment, underneath the grief, and the shock, and the strange broken joy of it, a question was growing. Quiet. Cold. Like the snow outside. If those men were looking for what James had left behind, and James had died on a road, on a Tuesday, in a ravine, was it really black ice? Was it really an accident? Or had someone finally found him before he could get free? After he finished eating, I poured him coffee. He wrapped both hands around the mug. And I said the thing I had been carrying for 40 minutes. Cooper, I need to ask you something. And I need you to think carefully before you answer. He looked up. In that box, I said. The one under your mother's bed. Was there anything else? Besides photographs and letters? Long silence. He looked at the coffee in his hands. The same way James used to look at his coffee. When he had something important to say. And didn't know how to start. Then he said, yes. One word. Yes. One word. And the temperature in that kitchen dropped 10 degrees. Not from the cold outside. From something else. Something that had been waiting. For 6 years. To be uncovered. He set down the coffee. Reached into the inside pocket of his hoodie. The place closest to his chest. The warmest place. And he pulled out a small metal key. Old. Brass. A number stamped into it. Worn smooth. He put it on the kitchen table. Between us. Mom kept it taped to the back of the photograph frame, he said. The one with both of them. By the lake. I only found it when I took the frame apart. Looking for something. Anything. After she was gone. I looked at the key. I didn't touch it. Do you know what it opens? I asked. He shook his head. No. He paused. But those men do. I think that's what they were really looking for. A key. Small enough to hide behind a photograph. Important enough that men came to the door. 3 times. Grabbing arms. Giving warnings. James. What did you leave behind? What were you trying to protect? And who were you protecting it from? I made up the guest bedroom. The one that had been empty for 6 years. I put clean sheets on. Found an old pair of James's socks in the cedar chest. The good wool ones. I put them outside the door. I didn't say anything about whose they were. I just left them there. Cooper came out of the bathroom a little later. Cleaner. Warmer. Looking younger. Looking like what he was. A scared kid. Who needed somewhere safe to land. He looked at the socks outside the door. Then looked at me. Get some sleep, I said. You're safe here tonight. He started to say something. Stopped. Then said, thank you, Grandpa. That word again. In my hallway. In my house. In the place where silence had lived so long. That word. I nodded. Closed his door. And stood in the hallway for a long time. Just breathing. I went back to the kitchen. Sat at the table. Looked at the key. Still sitting there. I picked it up. It was lighter than I expected. But it felt heavy. The way things feel heavy. When they carry secrets inside them. I thought about James. That last Christmas. I tried. James. What were you trying to do? Were you trying to get back to them? To Diane? To this boy you never knew you had? Were you trying to get free? Before someone stopped you. It was almost 7 a.m. now. Gray light coming through the windows. Snow still falling. Quieter now. Softer. I was sitting with the key in my hand. And the phone rang. Same unknown number. Different area code this time. I stared at it. Everything in me said? Don't answer. Everything in me said? You are 68 years old. You have bad knees. You have a boy sleeping in the next room. Don't open this door. I answered it. Mr. Hargrove, a voice said. Not young. Not old. Flat. Careful. The voice of someone who has learned to feel nothing. We know the boy is with you. My jaw tightened. We just want what James left behind. Give us that. And everyone goes home. Silence. You have 12 hours. The line went dead. 12 hours. I set the phone down. Looked at the key on the table. 12 hours. I was 68 years old. Retired. Bad knees. A hearing aid. A house full of silence and old photographs. And one old shotgun in the trunk of my Buick. That my father left me. That I hadn't fired since 1987. What do you do when you are old and slow and alone, and time is running out? What do you do when the only thing standing between a boy and danger is you? I went to Cooper's door. Knocked once. He answered fast. Like he hadn't really been sleeping. Like he had been lying there. In the dark. Waiting. Get dressed, I said. We need to move. He didn't ask why. He didn't argue. He just nodded. The way James used to nod. When he understood something serious. Without needing it explained. 3 minutes later he was at the kitchen door. Wearing James's socks. Looking at me. Where are we going? He asked. I picked up the key from the table. Put it in my shirt pocket. Close to my chest. To find out what your father left behind, I said. And why people are willing to hurt a child to get it. We walked out into the snow. The old Buick was still warm. I started the engine. Pulled out of the driveway. And as I turned onto the road, I saw it. In the rearview mirror. Dark-colored car. Parked at the end of the block. Exactly like the one in the photograph. Behind the two young people laughing by the lake. They weren't waiting for 12 hours. They were already here. I pressed the gas. Didn't panic. Didn't speak. Cooper saw my eyes in the mirror. Turned around. Saw the car. Turned back forward. His jaw tightened. He didn't say anything either. Just faced forward. Squared his shoulders. The way James used to do. When something hard was coming. And running wasn't an option. I had no plan. I had a key. I had a number. I had an old shotgun in the trunk. And a boy beside me with his father's eyes. And I thought, James, I don't know what you tried to do. I don't know what you were trying to get free from. But I know this. You had a son. And that son called me Grandpa. And I will not let them have him. I will not. I have been afraid many times in my life. I have buried a wife. I have buried a son. I have sat alone in a silent house. For 6 years. Talking to people who couldn't answer back. But right now, driving through the Vermont snow, with a teenage boy who had James's eyes, and a key that opened something nobody was supposed to find. I was not afraid. I was something else entirely. I was awake. For the first time in 6 years. I was awake. And I was not going to stop. Not until I knew the truth. About the road. About the ravine. About the black ice. About James. About everything he tried. Everything he tried. To protect. Part 3 coming.